A little bit about me.
And I'm recording. I'm sorry. Thank you for the reminder, Eddie. We record our classes so then we can put them on Canvas. Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
So, a little bit about me. I grew up in Santa Cruz near the boardwalk, a little bit of a rough area. I went to San Jose, Harbor High School. Uh, then I transferred to Cabrillo College. I ended up getting 3 degrees, mainly as fallbacks, because Uh, one of the things that happened with me in high school, I didn't realize how much work it was going to be an engineer, how many classes, and it could be really daunting when I don't know if you've gotten the schedule from Joanne where it lists all the classes you have to take. I didn't realize that. I started off at Cabrillo, I think it was Algebra 2 or something like that. So I started way at the bottom. So that's kind of why it took me a while to go through there, but I enjoyed a lot of the time there. This was pretty good. Then I went to San Jose State University, where I finished my BS in mechanical engineering with a focus in mechatronics. The reason I focused on mechatronics is because mechatronics was a combination of mechanical design, electronics, and programming. Uh, a little bit later on, I'm not super high on programming, but it's one of the things you have to deal with. That's just me. That's just the way I think, naturally. So we come back to like why I chose engineering, mainly because growing up, some of the things that I like doing is learning about machines and how they work, how things are made. So I love that program. And then also building things and tinkering. So a lot of times as a kid, I was the one programming the VCR. Hopefully, you guys know what VCRs are.
I
Programming the
don't know. I don't know, Hector. I
uh,
don't.
so I would be programming. So I'd be programming clocks and stuff around the house whenever daylight time, and I was kind of the default tech guy in our uh, in our family. So that's one of the main reasons. Um, but then when I went so I started off at Cabrillo as a computer engineer, mainly because I did a lot of gaming and I enjoyed upgrading my computer. So I thought computer engineer was someone who works on computers or designs computers. Fortunately, after talking to some people, I I found out that most of the stuff I enjoyed was actually done by mechanical engineers. So one of the things in the beginning, I really wanted to do was design heat sinks for video cards. I always thought video cards were really cool. I used them to play Counter-Strike back in the day, and it was always attractive to me. So once I found out, mechanical engineers do that, and they also design other components um, in the computer, I did the switch. Also, I took at Cabrillo, I took some programming classes. Uh, the was it advanced C++ um, course I took there. I remember after the second homework assignment, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I decided to switch then. Um, Later on, what got me into programming more was Arduinos. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Arduinos. Arduinos are really inexpensive microcontrollers. I actually have one right here. And what you could do is they're kind of hobby level um, boards. So I don't know if you guys could see it, but this is actually one I'm working on for a project at work. They're really inexpensive, and you could hook up things and fairly easily program them to, turn lights on and off and do a whole bunch of other complicated things with them. For my senior project in high school, we ended up making a robot, and it was all controlled through Arduinos. So you could do things as simple as turning on a light all the way to doing inverse kinematics for a robotic arm, which was part of my senior project. So the next thing, so my experience at Cabrillo, the reason I chose it over a 4-year university was mainly growing up, we didn't really have much money. So in order to save some money, I went to Cabrillo, and I also knew that I was fairly behind in my education as far as, I didn't take any AP classes in high school or any of that. So I knew I had to take a lot of classes, and Cabrillo offers great value for each credit. So I was able to take all my general ed stuff, finish everything at Cabrillo, and then transfer to San Jose State. I mainly chose San Jose State because we are in well, I'm in San Jose right now, which is, Silicon Valley. Back then, you still had even right now, you still have a lot of jobs. Um, the only issue with San Jose is probably the cost of living could be the only thing. So one of the things I would do is commute, or I found a really cheap apartment and had a lot of roommates. So the other reason I chose San Jose was it was more of a hands-on school. So we did senior projects at the end of your um, degree. You didn't have to do a thesis. I always thought writing a thesis, that wasn't really something for me. I enjoyed making a project where I was able to show off, my all my years of learning and experience on one single project, which was really, really enjoyable. So as far as my career, my first job was at a company called Tooltech. Sorry for the picture. I'm not sure I'm allowed to show you the ones I have, but this was online, so it should be okay. So we designed and manufactured semiconductor cleaning machinery. So this was actually one of the machines that I worked on. So with mechanical hard drives, they work kind of like recorders, like vinyl recorders, where it has a little needle that would slide along a spinning disk to read data off of. What we did is there's a little piece of silicon on at the end of that needle, and that's what this giant machine, it's about the size of 6 refrigerators. This would clean those little parts. So it had a lot of different subsystems. It had a refrigeration system, it had a fire system, it had a solvent mixing because you could use things like isopropyl alcohol, methanol, a bunch of other things. It also had a PLC, it had sensors, and it had some robotic components which would move the tray of those little slides through like a conveyor belt system through different stages of cleaning. So one stage would be spraying the solution onto the parts. Another station would be using rotating bristles to clean it. Another station would have ultrasonic bristles to clean them. Another station would be drying. So it was a fairly complex system, and I learned a lot from that. It was a fun, when you first get out of college, you just want to, at least for me, I wanted to get to learn as much as I could and have as much experience as possible. So it was a good fit for me. The next place I went to was IASCO. This company dealt with a lot of remote monitoring equipment. So one of the things that I did is I programmed the data loggers for some of the systems. And I also did the wiring for, if you see the chrome little box on the picture to the right, I did a lot of the wiring in there and the installation. So me and a coworker would go out to, these are mainly up in the reservoirs of Santa Clara County. And we would go out there and do the installation. This was a retrofit system because a lot of the equipment that was out there when the reservoirs were initially built, they had systems like this, but they were falling apart and some of the components weren't working anymore. So this was an upgrade for them. These all were low power. They ran off solar panels. If you see the panel up on the right, it has little bird spikes. That way you get birds don't sit there and poop on the solar panels. And the way that these worked is on the picture, you would have one main host station, and it would use radios to communicate to each of the stations and collect all the data. So, and then all that data would be fed back to our customer, and they'd be able to keep track of things like water quality, geotechnical sensor information, a bunch of other stuff. They've also used systems like this for flood warning systems in different cities. And then lastly, my current job is at Magic Leap. So this was my first like real tech job. I would say, at least in the Sunnyvale office, it's probably 90 something percent software engineers. So it definitely has the kind of Google vibe, same thing like Meta. So that kind of startup vibe. Initially, I started off as a data collector. So with a data collector, what you would do is I would put on the device and the backpack, and you would collect data from the device, because we had our internal customers were mainly the perception team. So perception teams are teams that deal with hand tracking. So the device has multiple cameras and sensors that are able to track your hand movement. And if you do any gestures, it tracks that. It tracks your eyes. It has cameras facing your eyes, so it has the ability to track, and it's able to figure out where you're looking at on the display. Head pose. So with head
Hector,
pose,
will you give us just a little bit of a flavor of what Magic Leap is?
yeah,
Like what do they? Yeah, like
yeah. Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
So with augmented reality, it's still a growing field. So one of the main things that these are being used for um, is like telepresence. One of the biggest things is assisting people remotely. So say you have an operator at a power plant or something, and they might not be as experienced as someone else, and they're having a little light that turns on and off, and they don't know what that is. They don't remember seeing that before. What they could do with this device is they could call someone. Well, call someone. They could connect with someone who's more experienced, and they could between the two of them, if they have a device each, they're able to highlight. So you put on the device, and the other person's able to see the blinking light also, and they're able to like put virtual objects like an arrow, highlight things. So you could help walk someone through, instead of just using the phone, uh, you could have visual aids to help walk people through things. They've also used this for surgeries with doctors. So say you have a patient, and the doctor's able to see like an MRI scan while on the patient while they're doing the surgery. So if they're trying to find bone fragments or something, they'll have a better idea of where certain things are.
So does
Um,
Magic Leap orchestrate or create the environment as well? You guys design the environment
yeah, so it
and the glasses? Yeah.
yeah, so we design and manufacture the hardware and some of the software. A lot of uh, there's some software that the customers, they have to develop themselves, or we have a third-party developer who will assist the customer in doing that. Um,
And the
the
goal is really so people don't physically have to be there, right? They can be
Yeah,
anywhere in the world, but they can be troubleshooting, doing maintenance, training, onboarding.
yeah.
of anywhere in the world as long as they have the glasses.
Yes, and one of the other use cases would be like training people like in a factory line, an assembly line or something. You'd be able to the device is able to pick up certain key features, and it knows where to display things. Like if it'll tell you grab the screwdriver, and it'll point to the screwdriver where the screwdriver is. Um,
So
so
with the glasses on, you can also like direct people or put
yeah,
little icons. Like very cool. That's
yeah,
very, very cool.
yeah, and there's a lot of different possibilities because this is a picture of the second iteration of our device. The first iteration of our device was geared more towards consumer. So we had more games on there. We had what do you call it? My favorite was Angry Birds. So it would be 3D Angry Birds. So you would put their little building castle thing like on your table, on your coffee table at home, and you'd be able to shoot the birds from all different angles. So if you imagine playing Angry Birds in 3D in your living room, that's kind of what this device, the first device did. Unfortunately, we didn't port over all the games to ML2 because ML2 is more um, enterprise based, so it's more for businesses. So my job there was to kind of initially to collect data for all the teams that their job was to figure out how to track hands, how to track eyes, how to figure out where the device is in space. Um, Mainly because if you have a virtual object and you place it, say, on a corner of your table, if you walk around your room and you turn around, you expect it to be at the same spot. So if you have a head pose that isn't working correctly, what happens is the object starts to float off because the device doesn't realize where it is in space. So it's really there's a lot of different aspects to this device. Um, so I got a chance to work on that, and I got a chance to work on a lot of the fabrication. So I do a lot of the fixtures and rigs for data collection, which allows me to work with 3D printers, water jets, laser cutters, CNC machines. Um, I also have to do some small bit of programming, Python based, and PCB design um, and assembly. And then let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay. So for engineering degree, the impact it's had on my life, uh, I've had a very enjoyable career, uh, great pay, great health insurance, and overall improved quality of life. It's one of those things where at the end of a lot of work for school, you're expecting that payout where life is going to get better, and it has for me. So that's one of the things that has made it very enjoyable. Um, the next thing, suggestions for students. So for the educational, one of the things I really advise you guys to do is make sure you figure out how you learn best. So one of the things that I ran into a lot is, you won't always have the best teachers, or you won't always have the teachers that teach in the style that that you learn in best, or you won't always have the best materials. Uh, and then once you get into the work environment, you won't always have coworkers who are willing to show you how to learn, or teach you different things, or not everything is going to, very, very few things are going to be documented for you. So a lot of it is going to be learning, and it's just constant learning. So you need to figure out how you learn best. That way you're able to utilize that, not just during your educational path, but also your career and through life. If I'm one of those persons who has to keep repeating things, do multiple examples until it gets drilled into my head. So at work, whenever I need to learn stuff, I just have to keep doing examples. There's people who see it written on like or written in a book, and they get it like that. And all kudos to them. But that's just not how I learned. So you have to focus on how you learn the best. Learn how to successfully work in groups at work. You will never, hardly ever work by yourself. You always need to make sure you know how to communicate with others. When you go out especially in tech, you won't always have people who have the same background as you. They might have, a lot of the times it'll be like either different challenges with languages or backgrounds. So you really have to learn how to communicate to make sure you get your point across and that you're able to learn or able to hear what they're saying. For Emmys, one of the things I've learned a lot is make sure you learn Python. If you think that just because you're a mechanical engineer, you're never going to have to program, that's not true. I've run into that. And a lot of jobs out there, they'll want, especially now where they're trying to do a lot more with less people, they're going to want someone who not only knows how to do mechanical engineering stuff, but knows how to do programming and electrical. So a lot of companies are trying to save money. And if you're that person who brings those skill sets, you will be a better candidate than anybody else. Also, work on personal projects. It's very good to not just focus on your career path, but also focus on your personal projects that you want to do, that you want to accomplish. When I worked at my first job, I was working crazy hours. And after I left, I realized, that whole time, I think it was like a year and a half, the only thing I did was work. I didn't do anything for myself. And, that's not good. So make sure you work on things that you enjoy personally. For their career, one of the main things, look for a good environment. That's going to be way above whatever pay. You could be making $1 million, but if you're in a really horrible environment, your life is just not going to be happy. One of the key things that I've found is managers with families is really good because they have an understanding and an appreciation for taking time off. They know, like, if you have kids, they know how it's like, and they're able to really, they've probably gone through similar struggles as well. So they're going to be a lot more understanding of your situations. Make sure the CEO and HR are not related. Small companies, that tends to be a problem. Same thing, and make sure senior employees are willing to mentor you. It's not like you're going to go into an interview and ask these questions, but what you could do is just probe around and see what kind of vibes you get from there. Next thing is biggest jump in pay is by changing companies. From my experience, that has been true. It's for some reason they don't always, just because you're a good worker doesn't mean you're always going to be appreciated. There's always going to be other companies who are going to appreciate you more. It's weird. I don't understand it. I don't get it, but that's life, I guess. Next thing, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help, for pay, for accommodations. It is crazy some of the things that I've heard people ask for and they get. So don't be afraid to ask. And make sure you talk to coworkers. It's always good to figure out how, if you could get an idea and if you could establish a good relationship with coworkers, you're able to figure out, what kind of pay range they're making, what kind of benefits they're getting. Are you, did you get the best deal possible for you in your situation? And also, for networking, if they move on to another company, it's good to keep good communication with them. because a lot of the jobs I've gotten has been because I knew people there. You know, my first job, no, but all the other ones I knew people from school or were friends, and that's how I kind of got in touch with those jobs. And lastly, questions. I'm open to anything. I'm an open book. This is your guys' time to ask whatever, as long as it's not, I guess, IP related. You know, I won't get in trouble, but ask
Yeah,
away.
ask if anybody were ready to raise your hand. Um, and if you grace us with your beautiful face so Hector can see you, I would love any questions from what you guys heard. Hector, thank you for sharing.
No problem. Yeah, and I'm not sure how this hand raising thing works on Zoom. So if you could,
I can see it. I'll track
okay,
it.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll track it. Um, yeah. All right, we have Kate. Oh wait, Lily, your hand's up. Is your hand still up from last time, or do you have a question? No question. Okay, Kate, go for it. So Kate, please introduce your major or interest, your engineering interests, and then ask your question.
Sure. So I'm interested in getting a degree in mechanical engineering. And as I'm building my educational plan, I'm having trouble deciding between C++ and JavaScript. I have to learn one. So in your experience, is there one that's preferred in the professional field over the other as a mechanical engineer?
Yes, as a mechanical engineer, if you're going to be working like in hardware, definitely C++. There's, from what I've run into, there's very few things as a mechanical engineer that you interact with that works on Java. Because usually what I've seen is a lot of the times what they do with hardware is they'll prototype it in Python. So all the code would be in Python because it's easy for the programmers to do. Uh, then they have another team who converts the Python into C, into C language, so it's more efficient for the device to run. So that's one of the things that we do at Magic Leap is almost everything is in Python, and then when it ends up going into production, it's in C. So if you know C++, that makes it a lot easier to understand C. Uh, I've I've very rarely run into Java. Java would be mainly if you're doing like front end work. Uh, but yeah, C++ is, yeah, would be the one to go.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Cool. Let me ask you, there's a couple questions that have come in on the chat. There was a question that was voted up around, do mechanical engineers only do AC and HVAC work?
Oh,
I'd love you just to give your perspective on the possibilities of the Emmys.
yeah, no. So when I went to, I'm not sure about other colleges, but at San Jose State, mechanical engineers were broken up into three different, I guess, categories. It was, you're either doing HVAC, so like heat transfer stuff, uh, uh, mechanical design slash, and then the next one was mechatronics. So for the HVAC, it would be like, you would think, oh, it's just like AC. No, it's like you're designing server rooms, you're designing uh, AC unit stuff for skyscrapers, or, you know, we have these giant Google buildings being brought up in Sunnyvale. They've bought like tons of land around us, so they're working on that. Mechanical design is more focused towards like actual products that I've run into. Like if you want to design like a, a mouse, you know, they're the ones like doing all the button and figuring out all the failure analysis stuff. So, and then mechatronics, uh, from what I've done, is more like prototyping or more of like a systems engineer kind of facility. But just because you're a mechanical engineer doesn't mean you can't be doing electrical engineering stuff. I've run into a lot of people who are doing jobs that they didn't go to school for. You know, uh, uh, like they're doing robotics. They went to school for, I don't know, electrical engineering. So just because you're an ME doesn't mean you're always going to be stuck in the ME career path, especially if during your career path you take on projects that add, say you take on a project that has a little bit of experience for, say, cameras. Your next job, what you could do is you could refer to your experience with cameras and take on a role with a little bit more responsibility for that. And you kind of grow on that. So really in your career path, it's going to be like a map of different points that you go in. You're not always going to be stuck in that one spot. So
That's great. Thank you. And I think one more, and then we'll let you go. Thank you. Are you okay staying up until about 5?
oh, yeah, I'm working from home, so I
Thank you for
whatever
staying
is useful for you guys.
a little over. I think this is an interesting question, and maybe you can answer this in terms of percentages, but how much of a salary increase did you see when you moved from company to company? If
Yeah,
you could give us that range so that we have an idea.
yeah. I'll actually I'll give you numbers. It's a little bit more motivational. I don't know. It's too hard to do percentages. So
Please.
my first job was I I kind of got a short end of the stick. So my first job coming out of out of college, I was making like 26 a year, 26,000 a year. So that was way minimum below mechanical engineering in this area. The main reason was I was having a hard time finding and getting job offers. So I got this job offer and I was like, all right, I'm almost, I'm almost gonna get kicked out of my I had like an internship going on at San Jose, and I was gonna get kicked out of that. And I was like, okay, I need to make ends meet. I'm just gonna take this job. It seemed like a lot to learn. So that was the benefit. So a lot of times you have to weigh what you're going to learn from the place you're at and how much like pay. So I was willing to take that hit in the pay department and just go for knowledge. My next jump, I think, was around 40, 40 something thousand. And then last jump, I think when I joined Magic Leap, I was making 30, 70 something. Now I'm up to like 100 and something. So low hundreds. Um, so that's over, geez, when did I graduate? 2014. So over those years, I mean, and I had friends who came out of school and boom, they had $100,000 jobs. So, that wasn't my case. Other people, don't get deterred if you are not able to find, that $100,000 right out of school. Sometimes you're gonna have to work your way up. Or luckily, I hope all you guys come out making 100,000. And it's all because of networking too. I didn't realize how important networking was. I didn't always enjoy the people I was in classes with. So that was another thing. If I enjoyed them a little bit more, I think I would have networked more. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Are there any burning questions? You guys have 5 seconds to go, and I'll let anybody ask one more burning question if you'd like to raise your hand. If anything is top of mind, we have Hector for 4 more minutes.
Yeah, hello. Hi. I was just wondering whether or not, I don't know if, I'm sorry
Oh
if
wait,
this is already.
say your name please, and then the
Okay.
major, the engineering majors you're interested in, and then please ask your question. Yeah.
So yeah, so my name is Tochli. I'm interested in energy engineering and mechanical engineering. Those are the two that I'm kind of oscillating between. And I'm also a single parent. So I'm myself am pretty interested in wondering, you said that there was a lot of perks at some of your jobs or accommodations that were willing to do. So I was wondering whether or not any jobs that you've worked for or companies that, or if there's anybody that you're aware of that provides childcare as one of the perks, which I know is kind of, it's very specific, but I'm just curious if any companies you've ever worked for provide childcare or a stipend for childcare or something of that nature.
Uh, Personally, that I've worked at, no, but I do know one of the things I've had, especially at Magic Leap, not so much as the other ones. If mainly if you're looking for things like that, the bigger the company, the better. So if you want to aiming for Meta, stuff like that, those larger companies, they offer flex work. So one of the things with flex work is working from home. Um, and also, I think they might have some childcare, but they also have better medical stuff. So I forgot what you call it, those health savings accounts. So they'll have really good deals in that. The reason I say healthcare is really good because I think right now Magically pays somewhere around 90 to 80% of healthcare. So when I was at other companies or as a contractor, you would be paying 100% of that. So I did all my, like, whenever I got converted to full time, I did all my calculations, and it's a really good benefit if you're brought on as a full time employee. But I think there are some companies, when I did a job shadow at Google, I believe they did have a daycare. I'm sure Meta would have one too, but I just personally I haven't seen that at Meta.
Yeah, and typically, like Hector, what you say, like I used to work for a big Fortune 100 company, and they'll offer either stipends or it's an added flexible spending account that you can then like pre-tax. But those are absolutely negotiated options
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
are. Mhm.
and it also depends too on your team. So even the thing with in large companies too, the culture between teams can vary also, and also depending on your position. So right now, I'm currently in a position that's very flexible. I've been there for so long, and I know how to. I know, I do all my project management stuff, so I get things done quickly. So it's once you get managers who see that you're able to finish your tasks, they like let you roam free, because
Yeah,
they don't want to be dealing with you.
they trust you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So you earn that trust, and
yeah.
you're able to just make sure you get your work done, and it's very flexible hours.
Wonderful. Well, it's 5 p.m. and we appreciate you so much for one coming. Can everybody please drop an emoji, a reaction, to say thank you to Hector for coming to speak with us? Drop him an emoji, give him some love, give him some good fire flames, give him some hearts. Um, Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your journey and your transparency with even the salaries and the journey you went on. Like, thank you for giving us just all of that
No,
information.
no, it's very important because a lot of times you'll run into people who aren't willing to share. So especially for me, I'm sorry, I forgot to say, my family, I have three brothers. All of them are also mechanical engineers.
No way.
Yeah, they all went through Cabrillo too. Joanne knows them. Uh,
Whoa.
yeah, so
That's amazing.
yeah, but being like first generation, we didn't know what to expect. So unless you have friends who are already up there and have gone through things and you talk to them, it's hard to know whether or not you're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
And it's really a learning. Going back, if I went back with my knowledge now, I would do some things differently, but I have ended up in a good place.
Yeah.
So I try to pass along as much of that knowledge as I can. Hopefully, with that, you guys are able to make good decisions and hopefully motivate you. It's very fun being a mechanical engineer, but it definitely depends on your environment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And if you're not in a healthy environment, go to another one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I started having like
Go look for help.
stomach issues, and I was just like, oh my God, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And Hector, I will share out the deck with the students. Can you add, or is there a way they could contact you, or just if they have any follow-up questions?
Sure, I could edit it and I'll send you a new copy with
Okay.
my contact info.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for coming and talking to Engineering 5.
All right,
We'll
no
give
problem.
you, a round of applause.
All right, good luck to everybody. Hopefully you guys make it through.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, bye. All righty. Awesome. Well, thank